Hey, hi, hello. It's a Monday morning. It's just barely Monday morning still. It is Monday all day, but morning's almost over, isn't it? Anyway, I'm feeling bushy-tailed and fuzzy-eyed. Bright-tailed and bushy-eyed, something like that. Got my contacts in and I can't see a thing. No, that's not true. I can see many things, but most of them are doubled. I suppose that means I'm seeing twice as many things, doesn't it? Yes, I am still silly, in case you were worried. No need to worry. I've still got that going on. And not only that, but as usual, I'm here to check in with my body, do a little stretching and strengthening, and I invite you to join me if you feel like it, to whatever degree you feel like it. I'm not quite done getting dressed for the day, and I'm feeling that, but that's okay, because it's a good time to remind you, you don't need to be dressed. You don't need to wear any special outfit or do any special moves or even build yourself a custom meditation dome in order to give yourself a little love, a little playful movement. Anytime, anywhere is a great time to take a deep breath and let it go. And that's a good start to whatever else you want to get into. Thank you for the love. I'm going to do a couple of those deep breaths. And just letting go of stress, shaking things out. My cracked rib is mending. We're 2 weeks in. 2 weeks in? We might even be a little, I think it's right around the 2, coming up on 2 weeks, which means the mending is starting to stick things together. Feels good. It's a little more stable. But that said, I'm still being mindful and taking it easy on that section of the body. Let's do just a little free arm swinging because that feels good. Loosen up the spine. Shake things out a little bit more. And then I'm going to take a breath to bring my awareness into the bottoms of my feet, to root myself into the center of the earth. Hang myself from the center of the sky. And then I'm going to roll on down nice and slow. Checking in with the spine. Checking in with the whole body, coming down past the waist to the hips. Just hang in here. Shake it out a little bit at the bottom. Relax the belly. Relax the back. Give a nice sigh down there. I'm going to roll back up nice and slow, still just checking in with the spine. Let's bring the arms around the back and up. Enjoying a nice counter stretch. Pushing the hips forward, lifting the chest and eyes and arms. Gonna take that slow and let the ribs adjust. Coming back to neutral. Shake that out again. This time with a relatively flat back again from the hips. Take a swan dive down. Past the waist again to the hips. Hang here. And then I'm going to come up from the waist, pulling up in the abdomen, up in the pelvic floor, left elbow over right. Give myself a nice hug. Pulling those shoulder blades apart. Rounding the spine. Talking to that rib as it's talking to me. It's okay, rib. I'm not going to do any sudden moves. Releasing all that again from the hips. Down toward the floor. Just shake those knees out a little bit. Shake the shoulders out a little bit. Just let that spine unwind. And then coming up again, this time right elbow over left. Pulling shoulder blades apart. Giving myself a nice hug. Rounding the spine. Pulling up in the pelvic floor. Back in the abdomen. from the hips all the way down. I'm going to walk these feet out a little bit, put the hands on the floor, and just enjoy that nice straddle position, walking them out a little bit further. Let's do a little hip dipping to one side and the other. Just loosening up the inner thighs and the hips and the back. Wiggling that a little bit. Let's come over toward the left side, pulling with the hands on the foot or leg to get a nice twist over to the left. And then back to center, using both hands on both legs. Really relaxing through the belly, through the back. Pulling a little bit to gaze past the body behind me. And then over to the right, using both hands on the right leg and foot to pull the body over to that side. Back to center again. And then unlocking those knees, I'm going to roll up nice and slow. Still just checking in with the spine. Shake that out a little bit in the shoulders. Let's walk those feet back to under the hips. Get that blanket out the way. Shake it out to the left and to the right. I forgot to put my belt on yet this morning, so we'll pull up the britches and then step back with the left foot into a moderate lunge, pulling that back hip forward and the forward hip back. Pressing into that back heel, checking that this front knee is not crunching past the toes. Looking for about a 90-degree angle with that front leg. Tipping the tailbone under, looking for a nice long and strong line through the core, using the abdomen and spine together. Let's twist to the outside today, so I'm going to swing that back heel onto the closed hip diagonal. What's that? About a 60-degree angle or so. I don't know. Depends on how you count your angles. I'm going to come to this outside plane. Closing the hips, really pulling that back hip forward, forward hip back. Gazing behind the body, gazing in front of the body. And then I'm going to wiggle that back foot out a little bit more to bring this left foot down on the inside of the right leg. Raising that right arm for a twisting side triangle airplane pose. Gazing past those fingertips. And then bringing this arm around to reach for that opposite hip. I got my very unstretchy pants on today. And I've been eating cupcakes, so they're pretty tight. That's alright. I'll just push into them. Enjoying that twist, a little hug for all the internal organs, and then unwinding all of that. I'm going to bring this hand down on the outside of that front leg, and then unbending that leg for a nice forward fold over that right leg, aiming my chin for my toes. Just enjoying a nice release through that front leg, and then bringing weight onto both hands. I'm going to bring that front foot back to meet the back foot. Pressing through the palms, through the spine, tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head. Pressing into those heels. Bend the right knee and press into the left. Bend the left, press into the right. And pressing into the left again. And again into the right. One more time into the left, really pushing into that hip. Bending the left, pushing into the right hip. And then pushing into both heels, tipping the tailbone again toward the back of the head. Pressing the heart toward the center of the earth, pressing the heels into the earth. And I'm going to lift that left leg, keeping that hip facing the ground as opposed to opening it just yet. Lifting that leg, pushing through the spine again, through that leg. And then I'm going to open that hip, letting this leg fall over to the right. Looking for a visual confirmation of toes on that side. Give a little ankle rotation for good measure. I find that very challenging, which just never ceases to amuse me. pushing into that stretch a little bit with the hip open, and then closing that hip, facing the hip back toward the floor, raising that leg again. I'm hitting dome back here, so just pushing as I can into that stretch, and then bringing this foot back down, bringing weight onto the left and lifting the right, again with the hip facing down toward the floor as opposed to open, pushing through the palms, through the spine, out that back foot, and then opening the hip, letting this foot fall over to the left. Let's do a little ankle rotation on that side if we can. One direction and then the trickier direction. If I think about it, it gets harder and harder. And just pushing into that open hip stretch a little bit. That feels good. And then closing that hip back down toward the floor and pushing again into that back leg and the lifted leg. Just feeling for a nice stretch. And bringing that leg back down, pressing into both heels. Let's walk those feet forward toward the hands. Coming back into a forward fold. Releasing the hands. And just hanging here again from the hips. Releasing the shoulders, releasing the neck. Letting go in the belly and the back. And then I'm going to roll up again, one vertebra at a time, stacking on the next. Just checking in with that spine. Let's shake that out again. Shake it to the left and to the right. Letting go of stresses. Making room for new stresses. I'm going to step back with this right foot. Do a nice moderate lunge. Pulling that back hip forward, forward hip back. Tipping the tailbone under. Again, looking for about a 90-degree angle with that front knee. Making sure that knee is not crunching past those front toes. Pressing into that back heel. Just enjoy that upright, strong position for a breath or so. And then I'm going to shift that back heel onto the closed diagonal. Pulling that back hip forward even more. Forward hip back even more. Closing the hips. Checking out this side plane over on the left. It's hard to tell left from right when you're twisted up like this sometimes. I'm going to squeak that back foot out a little more and bring this right hand down on the inside of the left foot. And then raising that left hand, enjoying a nice twisting side triangle or aeroplane pose, as I like to call it. Got lots of snap, crackle, pop, ka-chunks in there. Still feeling a little unstable. That's okay. I'm just taking it nice and easy and listening to the body, and at the same time letting it know I do need it to keep moving, keep functioning. I'm going to bring this left hand around the back to reach for this opposite right hip and enjoy a little more twisting, wringing out the organs, giving everybody a nice hug in there. Enjoying that. And I'm going to unwind that, bringing this left hand down on the outside of that left leg and straightening that left leg, draping the body over that front leg, aiming my chin for my toes for a nice flat back stretch. Just enjoying that for a breath or so. And I'm going to bring weight onto the hands and bring that front foot back to meet the back foot, pressing through the palms, through the spine, into the tailbone, tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head, pressing into those heels. Just enjoying a nice release there. Pressing the heart toward the center of the earth. Pressing those heels into the earth. Sometimes I like to squeak those heels back just a little bit further. Change that stretch up. Pressing still into those heels. Tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head. Squeak them back just a little bit further. Still tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head, pressing into those heels. Pressing the heart toward the earth. And then I'm going to walk these feet forward again toward the hands. Coming back up into a forward fold. Feet under the hips and releasing the hands, just hanging here again from the hips. Letting the spine unwind. Add a little weight onto the head or hair. Just help that unwinding. And then I'm going to bend the knees, swing the arms back. Coming into a counter stretch, pushing the hips forward, lifting the eyes and the chest. And then coming back to neutral. Shake that out. I'm going to bring hands behind the back for a little stretching of the chest and shoulders. I got to wiggle that around a little bit to let the rib adjust, pressing palms together, rolling the shoulder blades together, pulling elbows together. Again, I got to take that just a little slower than usual today while I let those ribs adjust, and continuing to roll those shoulder blades together and pulling down with those fingertips, pressing palms, getting a nice stretch through the front of the body. And then coming back up to upright, making sure not to lock those knees, and bending from the hips, bringing those hands with me this time into a forward fold. Still keeping those palms pressed together, elbows and shoulders rolling towards each other. Got some strains in my shoulder, so I'm just going to take that nice and slow. Nice exploration of the tension, where there's stickiness, where there's suppleness. Kind of slowly bringing it back all together. Exploring my triceratops ridges with my fingertips here. Just exploring that stretch. And then I'm going to push up from the feet, through the hips, through the spine, unhinging up the hips there with a relatively flat back. Coming back into that counter stretch, pulling down with those fingers, lifting the eyes and chest. And then coming back to neutral, releasing those numb, tingly hands. Shake that out a little bit. I'm going to just do some arm swinging. Let's do a little qigong breathing. Wow, while I'm at that, I like to breathe in, lift the arms, and then breathing out, stepping back to the left. I'm going to do it real slow at first, and then I'm going to speed it up. Breathing in, stepping forward, and then stepping to the right. Again, breathing in. I like to make a little circle up there, and then just releasing that to the left and to the right. Fill in the lungs and then squeezing out all the air, making room for a new breath by getting rid of the old one. That's a good idea to do with breaths and stresses and negative thoughts, all of that. There'll be more on the way. You can go ahead and let go of what was with you yesterday. I'm going to bring weight onto the right foot and bring this left knee up toward left shoulder. Again, in my unstretchy pants. Just enjoy a nice, mellow, balance, relaxing that supporting side, tipping the tailbone under, relaxing the shoulders, looking for a nice long supportive line from the bottom of that supporting foot, through the hips, through the spine, out the top of the head. Enjoy a nice releasing breath there. And I'm going to set that down. Bring weight onto the left, relaxing that supporting side. Bring this right knee up toward right shoulder. Again, tipping the tailbone under, relaxing that supporting foot and leg. Relaxing the shoulders. Just enjoying that nice, long, supportive line from the bottom of that left foot, through the pelvis, through the spine, out the top of the head. Remember to breathe and smile, whatever else you're into, or if you'd rather, you can scowl and hold your breath and let me know how that works out for you. Set that down, shake all that out. Let's do a little hip sliding. For good measure, I'm going to root both feet under the hips, making sure that the hips are also under the shoulders and the shoulders are under the ears. A lot of times that requires a little pushing back because most of us are doing this so much lately. So again, the proper alignment of the human body is ear over shoulder, shoulder over hip, hip over ankle. Just enjoying that alignment. Sometimes it is helpful just to breathe into that alignment for a couple breaths. All right, some hip slides with both feet firmly rooted under the hips and keeping these hips relatively parallel to the floor plane. I'm going to slide them over to the left. A lot of times that requires a little pulling down at the end, and I'm trying to not shift my weight off of that opposite right foot, which takes some concentration for me and brings the stretch up into mostly the lower back and the abdomen a little bit. Going over to the right. Again, trying to make sure and keep this left side rooted. And then over again to the left and to the right. And one more time to the left. To the right. And now I'm going to push with weight off of the right, tipping the hips a little bit and just pushing into this left side. For me, that brings the stretch into that hip socket. Do be mindful to not pop any bones out of any sockets. Coming over to the right. It's good to stretch this area, but not overstretch it. Pushing into the right and then dipping on the right and pushing into the left. Dipping on the left, pushing into the right. Coming back and stepping into a straddle position and dipping a little more adamantly on the right. Lifting on the left. For me, that pulls a stretch into the inner thigh. Keeping both feet planted on the ground now, not lifting any weight. Dipping on the left. And pulling that stretch into the left thigh. And stretching and dipping on the right. And again on the left. And again on the right. And on the left. I'm going to step back just a little bit and a little bit wider stance. And then I'm going to bend into this left side. It's for a nice alternate stretch. You can play with either being up on the toes of that left foot or down onto the heel. Kind of see how that changes the stretch and the balance up. You can also play with keeping this long leg with the foot planted firmly, side of foot on the ground and pointing toes pointing forward, or lifting those toes, pointing them up toward the ground. For me, that changes the stretch up quite a bit. If you wanted to increase that stretch, you could reach for those toes a little and pull them back. Bringing that foot back forward and planting it on the floor, pressing up with the supporting leg. Wiggle that out a little bit and then come down on the right side. Again, alternating foot pointing forward, toes pointing up, and playing with being up on the toes or down on the heel of this supporting side. Bring these left toes up, reach for that. Enjoy that nice stretch. I like to use my elbow on my knee sometimes to increase that stretch a little. It's pushing the torso over this left side. Just gives me a really nice stretch through the torso and shoulder. Bringing this foot back down to press, pressing through that supporting side, coming back up to standing. Let's wiggle that out again, and then walk these feet back under the hips. Touch dome with the dome. I'm just going to swing the arms a little bit. I'm going to get on with my inversion and my 100 any reps, and wish you a fantastic Monday. Remind you that you are worthy of your own unconditional love. It doesn't take any special amount of time or outfit or area to give yourself a little playful movement. I hope you're doing that. Thank you for stopping by. Larry, Chris, Ed, it's good to see you. Ciao for now.